Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Anna. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. We are going to be doing kind of a continuation from last week's video. If you haven't watched it, I will be sure to link it up here and it will be in the description bar below. Basically, we're going to talk about different resorts at Walt Disney World that you can stay at for a honeymoon. Resorts that I think would be nice to stay at, resorts that we have stayed at. There are 3 categories of Disney resorts, and you have value, moderate, and deluxe. And so based off of their names, they are going to be ranging in amenities as well as prices. And so if you stay at a deluxe hotel, you are going to be getting more amenities. You're going to be paying a higher price, but those are typically nicer. Your rooms are going to be bigger. They have things like club level access, lots of different sorts of amenities. If you stay moderate, you're going to have a bigger room than like a value, not as big as a deluxe, not as many amenities as a deluxe, not as few amenities as a value resort. So the name kind of says it. If you're staying deluxe, you get a lot. If you're staying moderate, you're in the middle. If you're staying value, you're not getting quite as many amenities as the other 2 are. So I have broken down into those categories of different resorts that I think would be fantastic if you are looking for somewhere to stay for a Walt Disney World honeymoon. If you are taking an adults only vacation, different locations that you can stay at. These are all going to be properties that Walt Disney World owns. They are going to be considered Disney World like on-site properties. I'm not as familiar with the off-site properties, and of course it is your honeymoon, so you can book where you want to stay. Let's get into it. First, we are going to be starting in the deluxe category. These are going to be the most amenities as well as the most room space, and they are going to be the most expensive. And so they're going to be a lot of money. The first resort that I think would be absolutely perfect for a Walt Disney World resort honeymoon is the Grand Floridian. Of course, how could we not include the Grand Floridian on this list? The Grand Floridian is a beautiful resort. We had several dining reservations to go eat there because we cannot afford to stay there. So we went several times to view it because I am obsessed with the Grand Floridian. I think it is beautiful. It is in my top 3 list of resorts that I want to stay at. And so ever since that darn Full House episode, where they go to Disney, they stay at the Grand Floridian and Jessie sings Forever to Aunt Becky Why the Grand Floridian? Let's talk about some pros and cons. Some pros would be that it is a beautiful resort. It is one of the most stunning resorts on Disney property, inside and out. It is just going to be a beautiful Victorian style, just massive chandeliers. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful resort. If you're interested in seeing what a typical room would look like, you can go to Disney's website for their different resorts and you can look at those there, or people on YouTube will do walkthrough tours of the resorts as well as room tours. And so I highly recommend watching those because sometimes you get the view, you get the idea of a resort and you just want to know what the rooms look like. You want to know where you're going to be staying for a week, or however long. Another pro to the Grand Floridian is the monorail. So, of course, you're staying on the monorail loop. It's one of the 3 that are in that monorail loop that go to Magic Kingdom. And so you have very easy access to Magic Kingdom, not only with the monorail, but there is a walking trail now to Magic Kingdom from the Grand Floridian. It used to only be the Contemporary, now it's Grand Floridian too. If you know you're going to be visiting Magic Kingdom a lot, let's say that is your all-time favorite park, that is the park you're going to be spending so much of your time there, staying somewhere where you can easily access that park is going to be a good idea. That way you're cutting down on your wait times, you're not having to take the bus everywhere. Staying somewhere where you have another option of transportation is always a good idea. Another pro is that you have tons of restaurants. The Grand Floridian is no stranger to fine dining. There are so many beautiful, beautiful restaurants at the Grand Floridian. From the Grand Floridian Cafe to Narcoossee's, there's literally so many places to eat. So if you and your significant other are what you would consider foodies, or you just like to enjoy fine dining when you're traveling, I get it, then you want to be looking for a place to stay that has a restaurant on site, specifically a table service restaurant. And oftentimes when you are traveling, you're going to be eating where you're staying, whether or not you're getting a breakfast there in the morning or you're coming back to your resort after being at the park and you want dinner, you're going to be eating where you're staying. You want to consider some of the food locations that are on site at your resort. And so the Grand Floridian has so many. They even have the Enchanted Rose, which is a lounge. Apparently you can get married there now too, which is pretty cool. So let's chat about some cons to the Grand Floridian. The number one that I can think of is that it is expensive. You are averaging around $781 a night. That's a lot of money. So that's a lot of money. It's expensive. You're paying a lot to stay there because it's just so pretty. So it's a very popular resort. People love to stay there. So you are going to be paying more money to stay at the Grand Floridian. If you can afford it and you want to, that's where you've dreamed about honeymooning and you can afford that, whether renting DVC points or by going through Disney, by all means, enjoy your time and send me pictures so I can live vicariously through you. Another con of the Grand Floridian is that some people consider it to be stuffy. And I've read that a lot on Disney Facebook groups where people go to the Grand Floridian and they feel like they're not classy enough to stay there. I know I would probably feel that way. I'd be like, I'm so out of place. Like, I am a girl from the Midwest. I'm not fancy. Like, my idea of fine dining is like chicken fingers and french fries. So some people can say that it is fairly stuffy. They get kind of a vibe of people think that they're better than other people for staying at the Grand Floridian. I don't really know where that all comes from, but if you are the type of person to kind of pick up on that, then maybe staying there isn't the best option for you, because if you don't want something that's super stuffy, if you want a resort that feels more laid back, I don't think the Grand Floridian would be the best choice. All right, the next resort in our deluxe category is the Beach Club. And if I could tell y'all the number one resort I want to stay at right now, it is the Beach Club. It is just a beautiful, beautiful resort. Similar time period to when the Grand Floridian's theme is. So you're kind of getting that turn of the century, early 1910s, Victorian era. A lot of people who grew up in New Jersey say that the Beach Club and the Boardwalk resorts feel the most like home to them because they have that theming of Jersey Shore, New England carnival type of theme. I don't know why I'm comparing it to the Boardwalk, probably because they're like both right there, but yeah, the Beach Club has beautiful, beautiful theming, lots of things to remind you of the ocean and the beach. So it is a gorgeous resort. I think all the resorts at Disney are pretty, so that's like going to be a pro for me for all of them, is that I think they're all gorgeous. A big pro of the Beach Club is that it is within walking distance of not one, but two theme parks. You can walk to Epcot through the International Gateway, or there is a walking trail to get to Hollywood Studios. Along those lines, you can take a boat to Hollywood Studios. If you know you're going to be spending a lot of time at Hollywood Studios or Epcot, then the Beach Club, the Yacht Club, and the Boardwalk are all going to be really good resorts for you to choose from because they are offering that, so like you're so close to them. So definitely pros for the Beach Club. Another pro is the pool. It has one of the coolest pools on Disney property. A lot of people say that they stay at Beach Club solely for the pool. You are getting a sand bottom, you're getting water slides. It's, you know, how could you have a themed, like a resort that's themed called the Beach Club and not have an awesome pool? So I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand. So if you're big swimmers, if you're big people who want to sit back, kick back, relax by the pool, then Beach Club is going to be a great option for you. Another pro of the Beach Club is that you are close to the Skyliner because you are so close to Epcot. So if you want to go eat at a resort that's on the Skyliner route, if you're staying at a resort that has a lot of transportation options, then you are really in a good place because not only are you able to rely on different forms of transportation than just the Disney buses, you just have more options. And so if it's at the end of the night, you're tired, you just want to get back to your hotel, and you don't want to wait for a bus, then having something like the Skyliner, walking options or boat options, then it's just so easy to just be able to get back to your resort at the end of the night when you're just exhausted. That way you're not having to call a rideshare company, and that way you're not having to wait in line for Disney World buses. Another big pro to the Beach Club are the dining options. And so again, you are going to be eating where you're staying. So not only does the Beach Club itself have fantastic restaurants, you also are within walking distance to Epcot. the World Showcase. So you can go and get something to eat at Epcot as long as you have the park ticket and I guess now the park reservation. Then you can go eat at Epcot and then go back to your resort. Or you can eat at the boardwalk. The boardwalk has wonderful dining options from breakfast to lunch to dinner to snacks. Like there are just so many dining options. Not only do you have the resort options, you have 2 other resort options as well as 2 park options. And so I think that is a big pro, especially if you like to eat. We like to eat when we're on vacation. So I'm always thinking, where can we eat when I am booking our resort? Do we have to stay at the food court? Do they have other restaurants for us to choose from, as well as snacks? In the middle of the day when you're at Disney World, sometimes you just need some ice cream. And so staying at the beach club is a great option because you have so many different dining opportunities. So let's talk about some cons of the beach club. The first one's going to be shared buses. You are going to be sharing buses with the resorts around it. So I guess that is a con of staying there because you are in close proximity to 2 different resorts. So it just makes sense. Disney wants to cut down on how many buses they're using or for whatever reason. So you're going to be sharing buses with Yacht Club and probably the boardwalk. So that's kind of a con because those buses can fill up quickly. You have to wait 20 more minutes for another one to come or whoever knows how long. Another con is that it is pricey. In the deluxe tier, you're not really going to find anything that's super affordable, honestly. So the beach club is going to be $592 a night. That's kind of pricey, not as pricey as a Grand Floridian. It's still a lot of money. Another con of the beach club, this is something that I've seen in a DVC Facebook group that I'm in. People say that the balconies are standing room only. I see where that could be a con because in the mornings, a lot of people like to sit on their balcony and drink coffee or eat breakfast. And so if you have a balcony that's standing room only, that is kind of annoying because you are paying a lot of money and you're not getting as good of a balcony as some of the other rooms are. So I see how that's a con. That's definitely annoying. So one day we'll stay at the beach club. It's not this year, maybe next year, maybe in a couple years, maybe once my children have left me and aren't eating me out of house and home like my 2-year-old is now, we can stay at the beach club. Jumping into the moderate category, we have the resort that we stayed at for our honeymoon, and that is Port Orleans French Quarter. Now you might be thinking, why are you talking about Port Orleans French Quarter? Because it's currently not open. Because maybe in a little bit, if somebody watches this video and they want to stay at Port Orleans French Quarter, this will help them. So I'm going to talk about it because I love Port Orleans French Quarter. So let's chat about some of the pros. One of the pros is that it is the smallest of the Disney resorts. And so some of these resorts are just like huge and sprawling. And it's really nice to stay at a resort where it takes like 3 minutes to get to your bus stop and you don't have to book, you don't have to pay extra for a preferred room. So that is a big pro to French Quarter, as well as you're just closer to everything. You're closer to the food court, you're closer to the buses, you're closer to the pool, you're closer to everything because it is smaller. You're not having to walk what seems like an unnecessary amount to get to whatever location you're trying to get to. So the fact that it's small is a huge pro. Another pro is that the theming is beautiful. It is themed around New Orleans, obviously. French Quarter is more like Mardi Gras and jazz. Super fun. Another pro is that the food court is really good. So most of the food courts on Disney property are going to be serving like hamburgers and hot dogs, grilled chicken sandwiches, things like that. You're going to be getting your typical theme park food. French Quarter is going to be giving you more Cajun style food, and I think that's really fun, especially if you enjoy that type of cuisine. It's super tasty, and I think that it's a really, again, you eat where you stay. So I think like it's worth taking in consideration the food that you're going to get at the resort. And so if you like Cajun food, then French Quarter has a fantastic food court that is full of it, as well as beignets. That brings me to the next pro, beignets, period. That's like, that's a pro in of itself. People will travel to the resort to get beignets. They're delicious. So I just absolutely love the food that's at French Quarter. Another pro is that you have the boat that goes to Disney Springs. My husband and I actually did this, I think the second night of our honeymoon. We took the boat over to Disney Springs, walked around, went shopping, and then took it back. The only con is if you go on the boat ride in the winter, it can get a little chilly if it's at night, but it was a good time. So let's talk about some cons. The biggest one is that it's not open right now, so that's disappointing. Another con is that it doesn't have a table service restaurant. So they only have the food court, which is a quick service, and I know some people really want that like sit down restaurant, especially when you're at the end of a park day, or you want that for dinner, you want character breakfast or whatever. So I do know that that can be a drawback for people. If you do want a table service restaurant, you could walk over to Port Orleans Riverside, but that's about a 10-15 minute walk depending on your party, how fast you're walking. So you could, but it's just really convenient to have a table service restaurant at your resort. The con is that it does share buses with Riverside. And Riverside's a big resort. And so you're driving Riverside and you're making all the internal stops and you're just sitting there because Port Orleans French Quarter only has one bus stop. And so everybody goes to the bus stop, you get on the bus, and then you go and you pick up Riverside. And then it's taking forever because you're having to stop at all the buses, all the bus stops for the Riverside people. And it's like, this is really annoying. Can we just go to the park? So that's definitely a con. You do want to factor in extra bus time. I didn't, and so there were a couple travel hiccups on our honeymoon because of the buses. It sounds like I have this like vendetta against Port Orleans Riverside. That's not true. I just didn't plan very well, so that's on me. Your average rate for a room at Port Orleans French Quarter is going to be $284 a night. So not as expensive, but I mean, when you're talking hotel room, it is kind of pricey, but it's Disney, everything's pricey. Next up on the moderate list is Coronado Springs. So Coronado Springs is a beautiful, beautiful resort celebrating South American, Latin America, and Mexican culture. And so it's such a pretty resort. If you've seen pictures of Coronado Springs, which I'm sure you have, it is absolutely gorgeous. So some pros for Coronado Springs. You are staying in a newly renovated resort with the tower. So the Grand Destino Tower is, it has club level access, which is the only moderate to have that, as well as some rooms there that are just really pretty. They're brand new. So that's a great choice to stay, especially if you're honeymooning. The pro is that it does feel a bit more adult friendly because of the grounds, the theming, as well as it's a convention hotel. So we'll get into that in a minute. And it does have a lot of adult visitors who want to stay there. So Coronado Springs is definitely a good choice to stay at, especially if you want something in the more moderate category. The con is it's really spread out, so you're going to be doing a lot of walking, and that even includes if you get a preferred room. So Disney will break down their rooms into different categories. Like standard rooms are pretty much going to be the rooms that are furthest away from everything. They are going to be the cheapest, but they're going to be pretty far, so you're going to be doing a lot of walking. You can pay extra to get a preferred room, and that just means you're closer to certain aspects. So if you're closer to a bus stop, or you're closer to the lobby, you're closer to the pool, you can get a preferred room, but you're paying extra for that, and you're still doing a lot of walking just because it is a very spread out resort. Another con is that it does have a lot of internal bus stops. And so, like I mentioned earlier with Port Orleans Riverside and French Quarter, you're stopping at many bus stops within the resort, and all that's doing is just adding extra travel time. It might guarantee you don't get on the next bus or whatever. It's really just kind of annoying. It's not really like, I don't know, it's not the end of the world, but it's just kind of annoying. Another con is that it does have a lot of conventions, and so sometimes that can take away the Disney magic because you're seeing a lot of people who are there for work. They're there for a work trip. They are in a business meeting or whatever. I'm not really sure what that looks like right now with the pandemic. If you think that could take you out of the magic, then Coronado Springs might not be the best choice for you, but there's a ton of other Disney resorts, so it's not really a big deal. An average night at Coronado Springs is going to be $276 per night. That is for a standard room. If you want to upgrade to a preferred room, then that is going to be a little bit extra. So just so you know, in case you are thinking about booking a preferred room at Coronado Springs, that the average price is going to be a little bit lower than the price you're going to be getting. All right, let's move into the value category. So there are 5 value resorts at Walt Disney World. You have the sister resorts that are Pop and Art of Animation, and then you have the 3 All-Stars. So if I were to pick out of those 5, I would pick Pop Century, and here's why. This is actually where my family's staying this upcoming year, and I do think that Pop is a great option for a honeymoon resort, especially if you're on a budget. Some pros of Pop Century. You have the Skyliner. That is a huge pro. You have close access to 2 out of the 4 theme parks. So you are able to go to Epcot and Hollywood Studios quite easily. It's really easy to get on the Skyliner, and it's a quick way to get to those 2 parks. Well, I don't know. Quick is relative. Every transportation that aren't the buses. So it's really, the Skyliner is a great option. It is new. Disney is really proud of the Skyliner, I think. I have heard from several people that it is the best transportation option, and I'm excited to see. So I think that the Skyliner is definitely a pro for Pop. Another pro is that it does have fun theming. If you are a millennial like me, then you will probably like the theming of Pop Century. I know for me, I really like the 80s and the 90s theming of it. If you have a certain decade that you really like, then it's going to be really fun for you and your spouse to go and take pictures over in that decade. I know my husband's really excited to see the 80s. They really go all out. It feels like you are engulfed in that culture. And it's going to be fun for us to kind of like reminisce, because the 90s is when we grew up. And so seeing little things from our childhood. I know my husband's excited about seeing the 8-track staircase, and we're excited to see the yo-yo staircase. And I think like if you and your significant other like a certain decade, then that's going to be really fun for you to go and take pictures in that decade. And so the theming of Pop is definitely a pro. Another pro for Pop is that it has dedicated buses. So I'm not quite sure how many bus stops there are at Pop Century. Like I said, we haven't stayed there just yet, but it's dedicated. You're not sharing it with Art of Animation. It's just going to be for Pop Century guests. And that's definitely a big pro, especially for a resort that is large like Pop Century. So the fact that you're not having to load up your already big resort and then go and pick up another big resort, you just have your resort and you can go to the park, that's definitely a big pro. Another pro of Pop is that it is affordable. So the value resorts, I know some people can kind of look down on them, but I think that the value resorts are great. They're there for a reason, to offer more options for people and families to go to Walt Disney World. So I'm a big fan of the value resorts. I think that they all have really cute theming. Do I want to stay at All-Star Movies one day? Yeah, I do. Okay, we'll just say that. I'm excited to stay at All-Star Movies. I think that if you had to choose between not going on a Disney vacation and going on a Disney vacation or honeymoon and only stay at a value resort, stay at the value resort. Another pro of Pop Century is that they have renovated rooms. All the rooms have been updated, and so they look really modern and cute. I am really excited about staying in the rooms. So that is a big pro. You're not staying, I don't remember when Pop Century was built, but sometimes staying in like older hotel rooms, you're like, this is showing its age. But the fact that they have all been renovated in the past couple years is a big pro. Like with every resort, there are a couple cons. So a con for Pop Century is it's huge. It's very spread out. So you're going to be doing a lot of walking, and if you want a preferred room, you're going to have to pay extra for that. So with value resorts, they are trying to make as much room as possible. It's not going to be as quaint and compact as some of the deluxe or even like French Quarter is. They're going to be pretty spread out because they're trying to make room for a lot of families. Value resorts are some of the most popular resorts, so they're going to be pretty spread out. You're going to have to walk to get to places in between buildings, to the pool, to the bus stop, to the lobby. It's going to be a walk. And so that's something to consider, especially at the end of a park day and you're walking and you just want to get back to your resort. You want to get back to your room and you have to walk all the way to the 90 section. Yeah. Another con is that Pop Century is pretty crowded. It is one of the most popular resorts at Walt Disney World, so it's great for everybody of all ages, of all parties, and so it can be kind of crowded. The food court can be kind of crowded, and if that's something that you're not really into for your honeymoon, then I would recommend looking into a resort that isn't as crowded or isn't as popular. All right, and that will do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. And while you're at it, subscribe to my channel for more Disney content, and I will see you all next week.